Air Canada says bookings are down to just 5% of what they were last year, and it's losing as much as $22 million a day. I'm now joined by John Gradek, head of McGill University's Global Aviation Leadership Program and former Air Canada executive. John, great to have you here on the program. So your thoughts on what we're hearing, what we heard from Air Canada yesterday. So many layoffs, 50 to 60% of their staff. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a question of Air Canada starting to play a hardball with the government. I think that what you see is a global move by a number of carriers to threaten the governments with basically massive layoffs in exchange for subsidies or in exchange for loans or for grants. You're seeing a lot of European carriers, whether it's friends in Germany or the UK or even in the US, getting billions of dollars worth of grants or loans. And none of that is happening in Canada. So I think Air Canada basically has given up the ghost on getting that grant or those monies and basically saying we're going to have to reduce the workforce and the fleet.
$22 million a day. They're saying $600 million a month. The government did announce, and this is the LEAF program, larger employee emergency financing facility to provide bridge financing to Canada's larger employers. Again, it's financing. It's a loan that's coming. Would something like this help Air Canada?
I think that the LEAF program, from what I understand, I think that I've still got to get all the details down. I think that the minimum you get is 60 million, the max you get is 80 million worth of what we call lending of last resort. And I think that's nowhere near enough. As you mentioned earlier, Air Canada is bleeding $22 million a day. So the $80 million isn't going to last them very long.
What's it going to take then? How is a company like Air Canada, how is the future of the aviation industry going to bounce back from this?
It all depends on the government, really, and the will of the Canadian people. If they believe that Air Canada and the aviation industry is worth saving, is worth operating, I think that it's going to require billions to basically throw a lifeline to the industry. Air Canada's move of laying off 60% of its workforce, to me, is a sign that this is a quasi-permanent reduction in the size of Air Canada. And you've got 200 and some odd planes that have been parked in various parts around North America. Will those planes come back if you're basically going to lay off 60% of your staff? The answer to that is probably not. So you're going to get a significant layoff. You're going to get a significant reduction in the number of airplanes. And Air Canada's, destinations that is served worldwide is going to reduce. So you're going to have less of a presence of Canadian carriers in world markets, and it will reduce the amount of visibility that the Canadian tourism market has in those parts of the world.
What about reopening the borders? I'm asking this now, but of course we're in the middle of a pandemic here. We don't know where things are headed and going. We don't have a vaccine. Again, we're looking 50 to 60% of employees just alone in this industry in Air Canada are losing their positions. Would the border, would opening up the borders help in any way?
Oh, it definitely would. I think that, the question is going to be one of, will a traveling public, want to basically travel in situations or to or from destinations that, still are considered to be, if not hot zones, warm zones. So, would you travel to the U.S.? Would you travel, to the U.K.? Would you travel to Spain?
Right.
I think in the U.K. and in Spain, if you want to look at international travel to those destinations, right now, both governments have said you've traveled to U.K., you travel to Spain, you spend 14 days in quarantine if you're an international traveler. If you open up the Canadian borders, are you going to require foreign travelers into Canada to spend 14 days in quarantine?
And that is the requirement right now. So we'll have to keep a close eye. And as we said, those borders look like they won't be opening anytime soon, at least not until sometime in late June. John Gradek, head of McGill University's Global Aviation Leadership Program and former Air Canada executive. John, really appreciate you giving us your time here on CTV News Channel. You and your family stay safe.
Thank you, Angie. Have a good day.
You as well.